2021 has been the year of recovery on many fronts, and jobs is definitely one of them. Now, we're not claiming that we're back to pre-pandemic levels of overall employment in the country, or that India does not have an unemployment or a wage issue that it needs to tackle. But most people will agree that the job market opened up once again in 2021, and there were a few factors for this. After the first wave of the pandemic, and once the world and Indian industry has started to figure out what COVID-19 will do in terms of impact, it was time to expand. All those retrenchments made had to be fulfilled. There were new areas of consumption emerging, and hence new hires having to be made. We've seen a wide range of kind of interest in the job market, and it's quite skewed. You have some sections where the demand for people, say in the startup space, has been so huge that all kinds of high salaries have been offered to them. You have a situation where IIT graduates have been offered an initial package of 2 crore rupees a year. This was also the year when there was some return of jobs in hospitality, in tourism, and even education sectors. So what has the year been like, and can we expect that improvement to continue into the next year? To speak on this, I'm joined now by Chandra Shekhar Garisa. He's CEO of Monster. Roopank Chaudhary, partner Aon India, is joining us on the show. And I'm also speaking today with Balasubramanian, Vice President at TeamLasso. So welcome to all of you, and great to have you this evening. Shekhar, let me begin with your overview of 2021. I gave a brief description in my opening comments on the show. Would you agree that if you had to describe it, it is the year of recovery on the jobs front?
Absolutely. It's definitely been a year of recovery. In fact, the year did not start that well. We were a little concerned around March, April when the second wave of pandemic hit. So you can also consider the year as not two equal halves, but the first 4 or 5 months when it was still muted. But the way things bounced back post-May has been phenomenal. And if I consider calendar year 2021 versus calendar year 2020, we are reporting on an average about 13% increase in jobs available in the digital space. So that's a pretty significant improvement if you consider the fact that the first 4 or 5 months was pretty uncertain and badly hit because of pandemic. Yeah, so you're spot on, Karuna.
Yeah. Roopank, in terms of trends, what would you say were the biggest trends we saw in the job space in 2021? Now, everyone knows that every company wanted to go digital fast. So there was a huge clamor for certain sections of jobs. Anyone in software, engineers were in huge demand. But beyond that, what would you say were the prominent trends?
So I think taking cue from what Shekhar said, the first 4 months were difficult and dicey, but by May we had seen a recovery. We track salary increments, and when we looked at salary increments in March, we were talking about 6-7%. When we did a survey in July, August, it was looking at 9-10%, going back to the pre-pandemic levels much faster than we thought it would. Clearly attrition was very high at 20-22%, which was the highest in a decade. Attrition is a clear correlation between what is happening in the market in terms of jobs and how people are moving, right? And that's gone up significantly. So one big trend was that attrition spiked up. It was much down to 12% last year, back to 20% this year. Salary increments were up, right? From an industry perspective, I think in addition to the usual suspects of IT, ITES, professional services, FMCG doing really well, any sectors that employed digital skills or tech talent, and these could be startups, these could be e-commerce, this could be financial services, this could be pharmaceutical, this could be professional services. The tech-focused jobs or the digital jobs were driving the spurt in attrition and also the spurt in salary increments. So going forward in 2022, we don't see this abating. We believe that this war for talent and the movement that we are seeing in attrition as well as salary increments will stay put for at least a couple of years, because the demand supply of digital talent or tech talent is very, very skewed. More people need these skills than they're available. Until the time that demand supply imbalance stays, the trend of higher increments and higher attrition will quite possibly continue into the next year.
The question is, how broad-based is this pool? And let me come to you with that, Bala. when we talk about these marquee figures and these headline grabbing sort of snippets about high salaries and huge amount of poaching for talent, what is happening in the broader labor market? What is happening to the requirement for, an army of service providers for blue collar jobs in the service industry? What is happening for the requirement of, security guards, people to work in malls, things like that? Have you seen enough of a recovery in 2021?
All right. So, no, absolutely. It's not just about the IITs and those attractive packages that we're talking about here. But there has been a percolation of demand all the way down to the bottom, right? So we at TeamLasso track a lot of crucial economic indicators, the foremost of which is the intent to hire. Now, the intent to hire is a combination of multiple parameters. It's across various profiles, across various salary ranges, across various geographies as well. So the intent to hire has been steadily climbing up. It was quite low during the first wave of the pandemic. During the second wave, it wasn't really as low as it was during the first wave because there was light at the end of the tunnel. The vaccine had already been rolled out before the second wave hit us. So people knew that it's only a matter of time before this thing comes to an end. And it's been going up from about low 40s or so and now all the way up to about mid 70s, right? Which means nearly 3/4 of all the companies across sectors are showing intent to hire. And the great resignation that we are seeing, not just in the US or European countries, but also in India, is just a reflection of that. It shows the demand that's available in the market. And to your point, it's not just to do with entry-level engineers passing out of IITs getting packages in multiple crores, but this demand exists all the way across the spectrum, right? From the entry-level people who are working at minimum wages, all the way up to the people who are getting all those fancy packages. And we've been able to see it across sectors. In particular, though, I would like to call out these sectors. E-commerce has been riding this wave and it will continue riding this wave for the foreseeable future. Retail will see growth in patches, specifically thanks to the essentials category where a lot of diversification has been happening and will continue to happen. IT and banking sectors are, of course, expected to remain robust. The educational services sector has been going through a spree again, and their hiring intent is among the highest that we've seen so far. Healthcare and pharma hiring intent is the second highest in the high 70s. Creating jobs in the patient care segment primarily. A lot of new avenues have opened up. They have burgeoned, for example, about care at home, for example, and remote monitoring of patients by doctors centrally. So hospitals have been able to expand beyond their hyperlocal markets that they typically used to cater to in the past. Telecom sector and FMCG are also riding this bandwagon, and their hiring intent is roughly in the 60s. On the laggard side, we see that sectors like travel and hospitality, non-essential retail, marketing and media, construction and real estate have taken a hit.
सबसे पहली टीम रूल्स ब्रेकर।
आप सब लोग कौन से सब्जेक्ट पढ़ते हो?
सर आर्ट्स।
ह्यूमैनिटीज पढ़ते हो? सर ह्यूमैनिटीज के सब्जेक्ट पढ़ते हो, टेक्नोलॉजी पे काम करके टेक्नोलॉजी का स्टार्टअप शुरू कर रहे हो, कुछ टेक्नोलॉजी का आइडिया है?
सर यस, फिलहाल हमें तो इंटर साइंस में ही था, बट सर हमें मतलब कि 10th में मतलब लॉकडाउन लग गया था, तो पढ़ाई थोड़ा लॉकडाउन चला गया, तो इसलिए हमें आर्ट्स ले लिया।
सो आप ये भी प्रूव कर रहे हो, ये भी रूल तोड़ रहे हो कि 10वीं क्लास में अगर नंबर कम भी रह जाए तब भी कुछ जिंदगी में बड़ा कर सकते हैं। गुड, प्राउड ऑफ यू।
और अब आपके सामने आ रही है टीम नेक्स्ट इनोवेशन।
सोलर पावर बैंक आइडिया बहुत अच्छा है, इसकी जरूरत कहाँ से पड़ी? क्यों ऐसा क्यों बनाया?
ये जैसे ग्रामीण क्षेत्र हो गए जहाँ बिजली नहीं आती और जो सुबह से शाम तक काम करते हैं, डिलीवरी बॉय वगैरह और पुलिस ऑफिसर हो गए, उन लोग जो धूप में रहते हैं, तो उन लोग के लिए हमने बनाया।
अगर हम इसको पूरी धूप में रखेंगे कितना टाइम लगता है पूरे चार्ज लेने के?
2 घंटे लगते हैं इसे फुल चार्ज होने में।
अच्छी चीज ये है कि आपने जो प्रोडक्ट बनाया है यूटिलिटी बहुत है। ऑल द बेस्ट।
अब मिलते हैं रेनबो होम इंडस्ट्रीज से।
जो घर में लेडीज अपने खुद के लिए जो काम करना जानती हैं, तो वो सर सिर्फ अपने लिए बनाती हैं, उनको उससे कोई अर्न नहीं हो रहा या कुछ कमा नहीं रही, तो हम ये चाहते हैं कि वो हमारे स्टार्टअप में, हमारे इस बिजनेस में साथ आएं और वो कुछ नहीं कमा रही है तो वो हमारे साथ मिलकर इसमें कमाए।
बिजनेस ब्लास्टर्स न्यू ईयर स्पेशल देखिए 31 दिसंबर और 1 और 2 जनवरी को शाम 7 बजे आपके टीवी पर।
धरती से चांद तक का सफर अमूमन बन जाती है एक खबर, लेकिन हमारे ट्रक हर रोज इतनी ही दूरी तय करने का रखते हैं हुनर। हम सिर्फ एक नाम नहीं, हिस्सा हैं आपके विकास का। ओम लॉजिस्टिक्स, मेकिंग बिजनेस सिंपल। हम जहां PNB वहां।
Shekhar, you know, in terms of trends, and that was something that the other panelists also mentioned, was the great attrition globally and in India as well. Do you put that down to what it seems like on the face of it, people having more options and then hence switching jobs? Or it is also, you know, fueled by other reasons and other factors that people may have had? A lot of people have had an awakening since the pandemic on what they want to do and have decided to switch their career choices.
It's definitely a bit of both, but if I were to comment specifically on Indian market, I would think it's the former. There's definitely been a lot of demand coming in. Several companies accelerating their plans of expansion, plans of digitization, which led to increase in demand of certain skill sets in unprecedented manner. And if you look at the demand as we are seeing by sector, and if you're also tracking the attrition data, they are completely correlating, which also proves the point that demand has gone up and therefore attrition has gone up because people simply have more options to go after. And when there is demand chasing limited supply, compensations do go up, and therefore everyone feels like switching a job at this point in time could mean much higher compensation. That explains that phenomenon. The other factor that you mentioned about people having an awakening in life, I would like to think at this point in time it has limited impact. Definitely there has been choices that people have made in terms of flexibility and location. That is playing out a bit, but I definitely don't see people making changes in career in terms of choices, but these are more around compensation, location, and flexibility.
Yeah. The other big trend really, which many people thought would not last into 2021, but it did and it persisted, was work from home. Mr. Chaudhary, I want your take on work from home. As we're closing down 2021, do you think work from home is now minimalistic, hybrid is here to stay, or will work from home always be an option? How do you look at this phenomenon?
So, interesting question. I think the fact is that we have moved from different spectrums where companies were shouting out loud that they will do work from home for good forever, and talking to everybody about that, then doing knee-jerk reactions and opening offices completely as soon as the COVID and the threat from the pandemic abated. Right? Again, now end of this year, many companies were opening offices, starting travel. With the Omicron, variant coming back and the surge happening again we are seeing companies talking about work from home and hybrid and having a very small percentage. So it's a bit of a yo-yo, right? So let's say that, by 2022 mid or end, we are at the end of the pandemic. It would be fair to say that a lot of companies will prefer to go back to working from office because that's been the trend that we have seen, at least in the Indian scenario, where both employees and employers are happier having people come to office. There's also a large challenge with the infrastructure available in India. Small homes, people struggle to work from home, so they want to go to office. There's a bit of social bonding. And end of the day, a lot of Indian employees prefer to meet their employees and work with them. Having said that, I think the concept of hybrid model is not going to go away. I think the rewards of productivity and comfort, which we have seen with hybrid working, have been absorbed, and most companies will keep that option in mind, where they'll have a flexible work policy. This will also help in becoming far more inclusive when you are getting into the workforce, people who cannot work full time. For them, work from home will be an absolute great option. So I think hybrid work will stay. And finally, I think it's also going to be the kind of jobs and the kind of industries which will define how strong hybrid working or remote working is. For example, a lot of support roles, HR, finance, admin. Many companies are talking about working to work from home model, right? But where you're required to meet your clients or you require a fair amount of brainstorming, coming together as teams, you will need to come to office to actually be able to do justice to the job that you are doing. So the industry and the kind of jobs that are there will also define what level of hybrid or remote working will stay going forward.
Bala, your take on the hybrid working model. We know that large multinational companies have already talked about extending their work from home policy in light of Omicron. But in the Indian context, do you think people are now preparing to move to the normal, working situation with all the checks and balances in place? Or will there still be some sectors, some job profiles which will stay permanently at work from home? These companies have realized that it fits, that the whole thing works.
Yeah, it does work. And we've seen that happening in the last 18-20 months. And companies have taken a lot of steps to ensure that they are future ready. And they go completely digital so that if such a thing happens that they have to make the employees work purely remotely once again, they are well equipped to do that. And yes, I agree with Roopank when he said that once we had kind of seen the second wave through, employers started opening up their offices and started welcoming employees back into the office. And of course, we were riding on the social capital that we had built prior to the first wave hitting us because we had already built relationships with our co-workers. So it was not so difficult to get work done. But then post the second wave, the market opening up, the great resignation hitting us as well, a lot of new employees joined the company and it was a lot more difficult to get things done the same way. So people do realize that. But again, let me come back to your question. What does exactly hybrid workforce or hybrid working model mean? It really means different things to different companies. That's what we've learned as well. Now, for example, let's take the case of a typical technology services company, right, which has about 1,000 employees based out of Bangalore. Yeah. Now, they can all work remotely. They can. That doesn't mean they should. Now, companies have realized that out of these 1,000 people, for example, about 100 people belong to a town A in Karnataka, for example. Yeah. And if they are based out of that town, yeah, and you can just have a satellite office over there, it cuts your costs significantly. And you don't really have to get all those 100 people coming into the office every day, right? As and when attrition happens, you can replace them with people who are living there in any case at lower costs. It helps you reduce your direct costs and also your indirect costs. So hybrid also means this. It doesn't just mean having X% of your workforce on the floors all the time rather than having 100%. But it also means these things too, where you can actually break down your infrastructure, spread it out. Yeah. You can also, spreading it out also helps you get closer to your customers as well, right? It's not just a cost advantage. It also gives you a service advantage at times. Yeah. So a lot of these models will evolve. And I don't think, for example, there are these opinion leaders in technology space who are saying that 3+2 is the ideal model. 3 days will get them to the office, 2 days they can work from home. A lot of people try to do that initially, but I don't think that is the model that's going to work for everyone. Like I said, each and every company, depending on what are the advantages that they can press towards, be it from a service standpoint or from a cost standpoint, they are going to have their own models. And many different models are evolving like this as we speak.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the key takeaway is that every company will now evaluate whether they want to go back to where they were in 2019 or in early 2020, or they want to move to some kind of a mix and match. It's interesting because there's talk of legislation coming in to determine what should be the reimbursements to people who are working out of home. They will perhaps allow companies to pay less to those who are not coming into office or working in tier 2, tier 3 cities. But you know what people really want to know, possibly people watching this show really want to know, is what are going to be the hot job trends for 2022? For those who are looking to switch, for those who have not jumped jobs at a great bump up in salary, how do they ensure that they don't miss the bus in the new year? Shekhar, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. IT will continue to be the one that leads this run well into 2022 as I see it. I definitely don't see the demand for IT skills abating at all across the board. Like we said last time, it's fairly secular across skill sets. For years, we've been saying data is the new oil. But I think the past years really made that true in terms of the demand for professionals who have competencies on data analytics and data in general. So next year, I'm very excited to see to what extent this proliferation of requirement for professionals with skills in data will go. That's the second one. The third thing I'm very excited about is the kind of opportunities in employment that fintechs will provide. We've seen multiple unicorns in the fintech space, and each one of them can potentially absorb huge manpower across roles, whether it's sales or technology or digital marketing. That's something I'm very excited about. The one thing I'm curious about to wait and watch is what does this conversational technologies, chatbots do to customer service? This year, while many other role types expanded in terms of demand, customer service demand has been pretty muted. And we believe this has been partly due to the fact that companies are now going significantly digital in terms of having conversations with the customers, and I expect that trend to grow. So that's something I would wait and watch. But IT skills across the board, data is something that we would closely watch, and I think many more people would learn data skills, and that's where they would find very lucrative jobs. And fintech would be very exciting to watch out for someone to build domain expertise. Fintech is the place to be in, given the way trends have been.
The biggest trends that you foresee in 2022 and the pace of recovery. Do you think that the pace of recovery that we saw this year will be tempered to some extent?
I think the pace of recovery will possibly continue at the same clip. I know there are a fair amount of conjectures and some apprehensions about what might happen with some of the COVID cases coming back. But I think one thing is very, very clear. Even if you look at the second wave, it was lethal, right? But the recovery that was shown by India Inc. and by jobs and by the corporate sector was very, very, very strong, very quick. So the clear learning for India Inc. was after the first wave that, they knew what to do. We were far better prepared from a business standpoint after the second wave, and which is why the recovery was so quick. So even if there is a third wave, there are talks of being a third wave, though it may be less mild, I don't think that will really put a dent on the recovery. And as a result, on the economic growth that we are seeing, or the kind of boom we are seeing in jobs and the corporate sector, I think that will continue. Most companies are resilient enough now to know how to work during a pandemic. It's sort of become a way of life, and they will continue to operate with full capacity and with the same amount of energy, which got them over the second wave. So, key trends for 2022, I think, jobs, as Shekhar pointed out, in those particular sectors led by IT-enabled services, fintech will continue. In addition, we feel that professional services, FMCG, which is again buoyed by strong demand, will continue to do well, as will financial services. Salary increments will be on the same pace that we saw this year. Anyways, companies are expecting a much better bonus payout because 2021 was a much better year in terms of business than 2020. So I think a lot of the trends that we saw in 2021 may continue, may plateau a little bit, but they will certainly not taper off or not fall, because I think we still have a lot of scope to recover and to go beyond what we had seen in 2020.
Yeah, that sounds good. That's an optimistic outlook for the new year. Bala, you agree? And what would be your inputs on what we can expect on the jobs front in 2022?
Absolutely. I do agree with Roopank's assessment of how upbeat the future is going to be, the immediate future at the very least. And I agree with Shekhar with respect to technology will continue to be in vogue and it will pay a significant wage premium. But then one clear trend that we have seen emerge is that candidates with specialized niche skills will be more in demand than ever. So being a generalist is kind of on its way out, to be honest. And the pandemic has also reminded the world of India's potential as a manufacturing destination. So let's not forget about that, right? And with especially the PLIs being sanctioned for multiple sectors by the government, several MNCs have already set up or are in the process of commissioning large factories in India or infrastructure projects as well. And this is set to continue for the foreseeable future. And this will require a lot of new skills. Some niche skills could become more mainstream. And we're going to see a much more broad-based growth across manufacturing as well, apart from the very obvious growth in technology. And one other very positive trend is that the amount of investment that we are seeing coming through by way of FDIs into Indian startups has been very encouraging. Until 2020, we've only had 39 unicorn startups in India. Now we've got 79. That's 40 more this year. The number has more than doubled in just 1 year. And we still have another week left in this year, right? So who knows? We could get news tomorrow or day after regarding a couple more unicorns. So,
But Bala, my question is that are these newly minted unicorns hiring at that frenetic pace? And this is it's a question I've asked before. While it's great that money is pouring into these Indian companies, these startups are growing bigger, are they contributing to the economy in terms of more jobs created at that pace? The largest number of jobs created will always be in manufacturing.
Yeah, see, of course they are contributing to the job creation as well, because see, primarily most of these startups, they raise funds to invest in their product. Product means tech to most of the companies, at least, who have become unicorns now in the recent past. And tech means people. It doesn't really mean much else these days, right? You need really qualified people, talented people to be able to build the kind of products that these companies have in mind. And in fact, these valuations are entirely based on the strength of the technology products and the team that is building those products. So we'll have to keep that in mind. And in fact, startups have become a very, very attractive destination for not just fresh talent, but also experienced professionals as well.
Yeah. So the thirst for talent to continue in 2022. What is possibly going to be a challenge for companies is to close the gap between the kind of talent they want and what is available out there. This is where upskilling, reskilling and skill development will definitely play a huge role. But the fact that there will be more jobs out there is an optimistic one, and we can hold on to that for now. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the show this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tamanna.